Good evening, one and all. Welcome along. It is episode 40 of season 4. I think we're up to 245 episodes at this stage. It's myself and Lauren this evening for a nice little intimate Christmas chat. Lauren, how are things going?
Very good, thanks. Great Christmas, great start to Christmas Day. So, um,
Yeah,
it's been a good, certainly set the mood, and you've got to feel sorry slightly for all these Philadelphia fans on Christmas Day.
yeah. They talked a lot of smack last week. They've talked a lot of smack since Saturday. They got their asses handed to them.
Yep. After the first game, and we said, oh well, we had a backup QB, and they said, oh well, you can't claim that. They can't claim anything now because they had a backup QB as well. So
Yeah, yeah. I think Jamie was running the Twitter account for us during Sunday night's or Saturday night's game, and I think between myself and Rich, we kind of took over things once Jamie had gone to bed, and there was a few people that were rightly put in their place about trying to talk about backup quarterbacks and players missing through injuries, and at this time of the year, I think it's pretty obvious every team is going to be beat up. They're not going to be at 100%. They're going to be missing players. So making excuses like that just doesn't
yeah,
stack up.
yeah, I mean, obviously, it's looking interesting for the run-in because Philadelphia came out of that quite scarred as well. They've lost a couple of players, so
Mm,
it's still an uphill battle for us to get the division and the number one seed, but it's still potentially doable. So
yeah,
um,
it
it's
is
certainly.
as you can see, what, we're still second in the NFC East. We've an 11-4 record. We need, and think this is, I have this in the comments, is that we need to win out and hope that they lose out,
Yeah.
to get that divisional title.
And they've not got an easy run in. I mean, on
No,
paper it looks like they've got an easy run in, but they've got two teams that are still in the playoff hunt, at least for wild card situation. With the Saints are still in a position for the division as well,
yeah,
and then I think it's the Giants that they close out with as well.
yeah,
So, both of those are fighting for their playoff lives as well. So.
yeah.
There's a good chance that they're going to have to play 100% if they can,
Mm,
to at least close this out. And if they don't, we're there snapping at their heels as long as we do the business. So
yeah. And I think that is the most important thing, is that we need to take care of our own business first rather than thinking anything about what that team is doing over the next 2 weekends.
yeah, definitely. Um, yeah, I mean, how often? I mean, basically, the result of this weekend, if we win, obviously we've got to go on Thursday night, play the Titans.
Hmm.
We can't suddenly be scoreboard watching because there isn't any other games on. So we just have to play and win, and then hope that something happens. And then, fair enough, if the Eagles win this week, then you start talking about resting people the following week. But
Yeah,
one way or another, we know what's happening by the end of this weekend. So
yeah,
whether it's all to play for or not.
for sure. Just seeing the comments there coming in from Joe. And as always, folks, look, make sure you get your comments into the show. If you have something you want to get off your chest about Saturday night's game, if you have something you want to talk about, send us in your comments. You are the MVPs of this show. It's just a conversation between myself and Lauren, and we have talked extensively about this game since Saturday night. So make sure, get your thoughts in, what you liked, who you thought played well, what were the low points of the game, because let's be honest, there were low points in the game itself.
Yeah, and I mean even the start there, but I think the main thing this year, and it seems funny, how Jason Garrett was always one of these guys that had words for T-shirts, and Mike McCarthy seems to have done it this year. And it's interesting that the word that he's chosen is resilient, and I think all this year we have shown resilience. That Dak's gone down, Cooper Rush comes in. It's not a case of next man up. Cooper Rush is there, and he's actually, winning for us. We're losing guys at the moment. We hope to have few of them back before the playoffs or in the playoffs. We're bringing new pieces in. The new pieces are actually having a major impact in this game, as we'll get on and discuss. So, there were points in that game where the Cowboys of last year, the Cowboys of 3, 4, 5 years ago or so, you could have seen them folding straight away. But I mean, we took our punches, and we came out, and we landed the final punch, and that was it. So
and I mean, you to be fair, we gave the defense a lot of stick over the course of the game, but when it mattered, it was the defense that stepped up and won the game. They forced the interception, they forced the fumble to get the last 2 field goals for Brett Maher. And, ultimately that's how the game was won. I mean, we talk about the defense putting up. We have.
Oh,
there he is. It's Paul has joined us. We're just talking about the end of the game, Paul, and we're saying how the defense has stepped up and helped us win the game. And, this, much maligned in the game itself, but they have made the difference.
Yeah, they've kind of been like throughout the whole game. They've kind of been under a little bit of criticism, from especially in the secondary, but they pulled through when they really were needed.
Yeah. And just the point here that Joe was bringing up is it's an interesting one. And look, we're not going to try and get into the pre-game show. Obviously, Mike and the guys will be along with that on Thursday evening, but Tennessee don't really need this game because they have an important game against the Jaguars in the last round, so they might rest starters. So look, it's the most important thing is we handle our own business.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, I still don't buy it with Tennessee. I think Tennessee, you don't want to rest starters for a week and then have them come in rusty for a big game that you're, essentially this is the winner takes the division for them. So, they'll still want to play their guys. They might do it as a sort of preseason, preview game where they start the starters for the first half, and then the second half they take them off. But they'll want to be hot going into their final game against the Jaguars, because the Jaguars are showing that they're actually quite a hot team at the moment. And as far as we all thought that we should have come out the winner there, and things didn't go against us in the Jaguars game, but it just shows that the Jaguars aren't anybody's lackeys this year. So
yeah, just to kind of add on top of that, the whole Jacksonville one, I had a gut feeling that something would have happened in that game. I didn't expect us to kind of lose in that fashion, but there are a team that they can be very hot and cold. Like they beat the Ravens, for goodness sake. So wait of well you want of them. They've got a good head coach in Doug Peterson. He knows how to get good out of their good players at certain times, at certain situations. But whereas this game, man, I thought it was personally, besides the interception in the first quarter, I thought it was an offensive clinic. It was two complete different turnarounds of we saw the best of Dak in that game in the second, third, and fourth quarters. It was 24 out of 24 for 300 yards or something like that. At one point in the second half. So that just shows how he can be in that role of that tackle. To me, that was a big game changer that game. Where he managed to avoid the sack and managed to still make the play, and obviously the third for 30. And not to rub any more salt on the Eagles fans out there, but their reaction videos of the 3rd and 30 has been absolutely priceless.
I was just before we came on here, I actually pointed Brian in the in the direction of Laws Nation. They'd posted
It's making
one of
its
them,
rounds
so.
on social media. Like the amount of Eagles content creators were watching it, and they were like, "Oh, we've got them! We've got them!" Then all of a sudden, TJ Hilton just stole their hearts and broke their wings off.
Yeah. I'm just waiting for a version of that to come out to be dubbed over with "Hello Darkness, my old friend."
Oh yeah. No. I think like a Law and a few other guys out there, Cowboys fans only legit out. They'd already like compilations of that type of stuff, so that would be quite good to watch.
Yeah,
Yep.
absolutely.
Yeah, that's massive news. Thank goodness he's all right. Thank goodness. And
absolutely.
it was, and I think from the last time I checked the reports, Sam Williams he's absolutely fine. But in terms of the actual police report, it was more down to the person drove into him rather than like just 9 times out of 10 you see these stories with Burrows and an NFL player. They're the ones that are at the end of the stick getting into trouble.
Yeah.
But no, he was the victim in this case.
Yeah, and I think from all accounts as well, it was a simple case that obviously America's been hit by the bomb cyclone that they're calling it, but on that day the temperature was down well below freezing and what have you, and I think the other driver maybe hit a little bit of ice or something, and there was a small collision there. But you certainly look at the cars, and it could have been a hell of a lot worse. So
I don't know if anyone out there watching and listening right now, I've actually seen the pictures of it. It's a nasty crash. Like he's lucky he's came out very unscathed. So big shout out to Benny. How you doing, mate?
As we say, folks, make sure and get the comments in. And we bring up every comment as best we can, even if we have to save it for later in the show because we do have a little sort of a running order planned. We do try and bring up every comment, so get those comments in, keep interacting with us. I think before we jump any further, I think we'll jump into the news, gents, will we?
Yeah, let's go for it.
Yeah. So, as you can see there, Leighton Van Der Esch didn't suit up on Saturday, but the injury is not as serious as first thought. Zeke Elliott has now had a touchdown in his last 8 games. I think that's tied with Emmitt Smith for the longest consecutive run. As we say, Sam Williams will be back. I believe Mike McCarthy said he'll be on a limited snap count for the game against Tennessee.
Yeah.
The Cowboys are 7-1 against teams with a record over 500.
Sorry, but before you move into the next one, I just want to raise how we can now debunk that whole myth about your winning record BS that other opposing fans have been saying about us. There we go. Sorry, Ryan.
Yeah.
Don't worry. Had to get that in there.
Don't worry. It's look, let's talk about that. Look, 7-1 against teams with a record over 500.
Yeah. And not to mention, I think was it not 3 of them are like the top in the NFL beside the Cowboys. So you've got the Eagles, you've got the Vikings, and who's the other one?
The Bengals.
Bengals. There we go.
Yeah. Yeah, and I mean, the job. Obviously, we'll get onto the offense. What the Cowboys' offense did against that. What is statistically the number 1 defense in the league at the moment. Dak shredded them for 355 yards. I mean, I think they sold out in some respect to take away Zeke and Pollard and put it into Dak's hands. And all bar one pass that Dak had, I think. I thought Dak had a great game, and even that was the first thing Dak addressed in his post-game press conference as well. He addressed it straight away. He said, "Let's talk about that interception," because he knows everybody, especially the way the game had ended up against the Jacksonville Jaguars. Basically in the space of 3 passes, he'd thrown 2 pick sixes. I'm sure a lot of people were already bagging on him at that point in time. If you went back and had a look at Twitter, I'm sure would have been ripping at my shreds and all that. But after that, I mean, he put the whole team on his back, and he carried the Cowboys across that winning line. So
yeah. I mean, you can see there the comment from Joe that it's 27-6. I think that might be wrong, Joe. I think I saw or on the game cast that it was 18-2. 18-2, I think it was what it was. But look, he's dominant against the NFC East. Let's be honest about it. And I mean,
yeah.
that's taking care of business. If you can guarantee yourself 5 wins a season from your divisional games, you're halfway to the playoffs already.
Yeah,
Absolutely.
I think the stat going in was 17-1 since his rookie season or something like that.
Yeah.
And the rookie season, the only teams he'd lost to were the Giants both times. So
Yeah.
they'd sort of discredited that. But since then, he's pretty much owned the NFC East. And that doesn't include Joe's maybe right as well. That doesn't include the games where he sort of started, where the division's been out of reach, or we've already had it sewn up, or whatever. And it's just a case of sort of start, play a couple of drives, and then hand off to your backup.
Absolutely.
But Dak certainly does own the NFC East. So,
Paul, I've got a comment here for you.
I don't think it's so much. I saw the interview with LaShawn McCoy, and Dave was just like obviously being really smug about it, obviously, and rightly so, because Shady kind of had to put himself in defeat, knowing that, yep, you know what, I take back my comments about Dak. But I think the problem is now Joy now on that show. I don't know if you guys seen it. She's now became the villain now. I'm just like, I feel bad for my friend Dave, our good friend Dave Hillman. Like, he's been on the show numerous times. He used to work for DallasCowboys.com. For him to having to put up with this, like, spouting the mouth, clickbaiting, non-debatable discussion is just obscene. It really is. So I don't know how he does it. And all fair play to him. All fair play to him. People are getting to recognize how good Dave Hillman is at his job.
Yeah. Like, I think if you like, I saw that clip that you were talking about with Joy Taylor, and like what seems to be coming out of this game, and I don't understand it. The Eagles are getting huge credit for losing, and we're getting slated for not winning by more. Can either you shed light on that?
And not only just that, it's like back in week 6, people were actually praising the same scenario as just happened for the Eagles, saying, oh, what a magnificent win against Cooper Rush. But now people are saying, oh, but it was Dak against Gardner Minshew. But I'm sorry, but Gardner Minshew does not play on defense. How can people actually use this in passing? Minshew actually outperformed Jalen Hurts in week 6 based on the stat line and what. There may be more turnovers, yes, but at least he was going for it.
Yeah, and I mean Gardner Minshew is a bigger named backup than Cooper Rush ever is going to be. Gardner Minshew, the whole Minshew mania thing from when he was in Jacksonville.
It was good hype. That was hype.
Yeah, he's come into this game. He came into this game having thrown something like 32 touchdowns to 11 interceptions. In 22 starts as well. So that just shows that, he has the capability of leading a team and winning. I mean, he certainly, I think he was, the year that he was starting for Jacksonville, he was winning 3 or 4 games that season.
He was decent. He's a very entertaining quarterback. I will give him that. Like if he was your starter, like he would actually keep you keep your bum off your seat, because he's always on edge. So I'll give him that.
I mean, the only thing I can think is that obviously you saw that the Philadelphia offense was missing something by Jalen Hurts not being there. The option game wasn't as potent. Anytime that Minshew was running the ball, he'd get tackled for a yard gain or whatever, where if it had been Hurts, God knows how far down the field it could have been, and it could have been seriously blown out to The way that our defensive line has struggled without the likes of Jonathan Hankins or whatever. There would have been concerns there, but they managed to take it away, and obviously we got the opportune turnovers when required. So,
I'm just seeing what else is there in the news and updates. Like as we say, LV didn't suit up. Sam Williams should be back for the Tennessee game, which is good news. And look, I suppose we kind of haven't talked as much this season, and look, it's slightly ahead of the offensive chat. But I mean, Zeke Elliott has 8 touchdowns in the last 8 games, and somehow it's Tony Pollard who got the Pro Bowl vote and nomination over him last week. Are we still underestimating the impact of Zeke Elliott with this team?
1000%. Jeez, I don't think how they realize that Zeke is so fundamental wearing defenses down, and that's where Pollard really does step out. Really looks really how he's made. The thing is, we see it though, he is probably without a doubt the best pass blocking running back in terms of pass protection. When I run in pass protection, Zeke is in there. He's always at the right place, right time. He hardly misses an assignment. Whereas Tony Pollard, he's a wee bit undersized for that, and that's why he's not as good. But with Zeke, he is just an absolute powerhouse. You see how he trucks people down. You see people how Zeke just manages to really run down the defense and going up to the secondary, get all those dirty yards. He does all the dirty work, and for me, that's the more injury. That's where you pick up most of those injuries. It's getting all these multiple tackles going through the inside, and he's still going and going and going. That justifies his paycheck. I'm sorry.
And look at it on the 4th and 1 play as well, where they flip it out to Zeke and Zeke goes 22 yards. I mean, Zeke actually had the longest run from scrimmage of any of the running backs at the weekend. He was more effective as a pure running back than Tony Pollard was. Tony Pollard was kept in check, but what Tony Pollard has is something that Zeke doesn't generally have. Is we saw screens, we saw Pollard being used effectively as wheel routes, wide receiver, and he gives you something else. But you need both of these guys in their own right to produce, and we're getting that. And for this year, great. It's helping this offense, and both guys, as far as you can say, both guys after 15 weeks of playing football, they're both running healthy as well. So, this time last year, Zeke off, you knew that he wasn't running as well with the sprain that he was having, which only came out after the playoff loss. That he actually said something was actually wrong. But
look, we're not in any way trying to throw shade on Tony Pollard, because
he has deserved his Pro Bowl at 100%. I think it's just because he has shown more highlight reels, and because the Pro Bowl, end of the day, it's a popularity contest. If the media are speaking about him in terms of, did you see what Pollard did in that game, etc., it's trying to get more media attention than Zeke's actual contributions to the team. It's not his TV highlight reel, whatever you want to call it. It's people are going to look at the one-handed grabs or whatever, and that's what really does stand out. And Zeke is a fan favorite. I totally agree.
From DJ Dog. The point I was going to say was, look, Tony Pollard was very unlucky to come up a yard short for the touchdown that Zeke eventually took it in for. The angle he took on that run.
I will say the block on 84 Sean McKeon, right?
Yes.
That block by Sean McKeon, holy crap, really opened the hole for Zeke to get in there. Holy crap! That was beautiful to watch. If you're an offensive lineman and you watch the game film, seeing your tight end doing that for your running back, you'll be like, oh, crisp high five.
Sorry, I'm just going to bring up another one here that Joe has sent in to us, and a cornerback. Yep. Yeah,
big
100%,
time.
Joe.
Here's a question for you now, right? With now Lane Johnson and their cornerback is it Maddox? It's now
Maddox.
Yeah, so two big losses, right?
Yeah.
And who else are they playing against? They've got one more divisional game, and that's
they've got the Saints. They've got the Saints this weekend, and then they've got the finish out with New York Giants.
Right, and the Giants need to win if just in case to secure that wild card spot more than anything.
Yep.
So that could be a loss for Philly potentially. And who was the other one? Sorry,
Saints. Who are still in
and they're in contention as well to try and overthrow the Tampa Bay. So they've got two tough games. Whereas us, we're in quite a secure position because there's no other team that can actually probably push us down number 5 right now.
Yep.
So we're secured number 5 pretty much. It's just a matter if we can maybe even potentially get that number 1 seed and really leapfrog. Who knows?
Yeah.
Just throwing it out there, but
yeah. Look, we're nearly half an hour into the show, so will we jump on to the offense?
Let's go.
So I'll pull up the banner here. In terms of the offense, and sorry, I just saw another comment there, and this is one of the points that I did want to kind of bring up. CeeDee Lamb, is he now a big boy wide receiver 1?
100%.
Oh yeah, 100%. I mean, we did talk that it was going to be a progression throughout this season. He was going to assume the role. It was going to take a time to grow into that, and even Michael Irvin, it took him about a season and a half of actually being the big dog to actually become the man that he became. Des Bryant, it took him a while as well because he was in the shadows as like the likes of Miles Austin or whatever. Miles Austin, who's now been suspended by the league for betting, but we'll pass on that one. But it does take a while. But I mean, CeeDee Lamb in the last 5 or 6 weeks since Dak came back, he's been averaging, I think it's 10 receptions a game, and where I think, obviously Kellen's using him quite well in general, although there was periods where the best thing for CeeDee Lamb is to have him moving in motion, stretching the defense that way before the snap's even gone, getting him in space and letting him run with the ball once he's caught the ball. And you're seeing that there, that he's able to take these passes over the middle, get that extra few yards as well, and it's showing up as well that he had 10 receptions there, 120 yards.
Yeah,
8 or 9 of those were in the first half. And he'd already got the two touchdowns as well. So he's certainly been a plus point this season, and I think it's safe to say he is our number 1 wide receiver. He's certainly, I think if you look at him now, he's on a pace for over 100 catches for the season.
Yeah,
I think he's 91 catches at the moment, so he only needs 9 over the next couple of games.
Yeah,
and he's already over 1,000 yards. The number of touchdowns he's got is great as well. So yeah.
I think the point I heard in the commentary was that he's also the first receiver to have 100 yards in the first half since Michael Irvin back in the day.
Oof.
Yeah.
Well, that's worth, considering all the wide receivers we've had over the years, man, that's
yeah.
And here's the thing: we've had all this doubt about early on this season. Is CeeDee Lamb number 1 receiver? If you said those first 4 games of the season, we were like, not really. But now, oh yeah, 100%.
Yeah. And I mean, I think the thing coming out of last week, obviously, is the price has now gone up on CD Lamb, on Trayvon Diggs, and on Micah Parsons after the Pro Bowl.
Yep.
And it'll even be, and if we do get to the Super Bowl, it'll just be even more.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, the good thing with CD Lamb is you'll be activating his 5th year next year,
Yeah.
but you'll want to get a deal done this year as well so that you can mitigate some of that, because obviously by activating the 5th year clause, it's the same as being a franchise tag. So you effectively, you're talking about at least, well, the number of deals that went over 25 million this year as well. You're probably talking that the franchise tag this year will be 25 million. So you're talking, and then you're actually talking another year down the line for the 5th year option. So it will be scary, but if you can get him signed to a long-term deal as well, you can mitigate that over the remainder of the deal as well. So
and the one question, and look, I'm not looking to knock CD here in any way. I'm just asking you guys your thoughts on it. Is it concerning to pay a slot receiver effectively, because he's not the best boundary receiver? He's more, as you guys have sort of said, he needs to be in motion. He needs to be coming across the slot to make his plays. But that also opens up the whole route tree for him. So have you any concern in paying a slot receiver potentially $100 million?
I really don't know, mate. I really don't know. It's hard to really see because of the market and stuff like that.
Yeah.
I think in this day and age, I don't think there is a problem with it. I mean, you've got to do things that get the guys into possession that can make it. I mean, you saw obviously when we kept him static, Philadelphia bracketed him and actually took him out of the game by moving him around. And some of the best receivers. I mean, somebody that we're going to be talking about in a minute, T.Y. Hilton, when he was playing for Indianapolis, he was being moved around all over the place as well to get into, to scheme him into position to make these long catches. So I don't have a problem with it nowadays. The more flexibility that you have to play X, Y, Z, flanker, that sort of thing is that's only going to be more beneficial, and you're getting more for the money that you're handing out. So
and I'm just going to pull up Ashish's comment here. If his yards after catch keeps going, trending, then he's totally worth it, even if it is primarily being the slot guy. And look, I'm not trying to knock CD Lamb in any way. Even if he went to a trash school, he's still putting it up.
You need to give the college team to play for props, though. Come on.
No, I'll never give that team props. that's like asking me to give props to the team we played at the weekend. It ain't.
Yeah, well, that's fair enough. Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, maybe the team, but not the fans.
Yeah. No, no. Both.
You know where I'm coming from with that one. You know where I'm coming from.
True. But just bringing up DJ Dog's comment here, slaughter out White. Kellen seems to have a formula to scheme Lamb open now. And that's effectively what Kellen is doing. And that's getting the ball in the hand of your best players, which is what you want.
Yeah. And I mean, you saw it in this game. Obviously, Philadelphia sold out to stop the run. I think Dallas were held to about 3 yards a carry. So it's a pretty poor performance in terms of how else we've been throughout the year. But I think the Eagles' play design was obviously to put the ball into Dak's hands and make Dak beat them, and of course Dak did, because Kellen was able to adjust things, make it that, and adjust early on. It wasn't a case of making second half adjustments or halftime adjustments. It was things were happening, and I also credit where credit's due. I mean, after that interception that Dak threw, Dak put the game on his back as well. So as evidenced by the shrugging off the sack and throwing the ball to Michael Gallup on 3rd down and 8. So
yeah. And I suppose like that's kind of the next point that we wanted to talk about was let's give Dak Prescott his props after that game at the weekend.
Oh yeah.
Yes, he threw another pick 6, but as Lauren has said, and as I'm sure Paul is going to say as well, he put the team on his back. And what most impressed me was actually seeing Dak Prescott starting to use his legs again.
Mm-hmm.
He seems to have redeveloped that ability to make runs and to absolutely drop the shoulder and truck guys to make yards and make 1st down plays.
Absolutely. I mean, you just kind of said it all perfectly well there, Brian. I mean, that interception, it was not the best decision in the world, but how he came back from that was just simply remarkable. It was pretty much nearly perfect, and the amount and that 3rd and 30, like DJ Dogs just commented there, like that was just a thing of beauty. Like I had to admit, and all credit to T.Y. Hilton as well for making an incredible catch and double coverage like that. He had 2 guys on him, and he still pulled out the bag, and it was great. And even for Kellen Moore in a way, like don't get me wrong, there were some plays that made no sense, etc. Once again, there was that little bit of, but overall, it was a good game plan we had against the Eagles.
Yeah, I think the odds on that particular play were only 2% that you were going to convert 3rd and 30. And it was just an amazing call. I mean, I think I probably woke the street up here when that happened. Watching the game, I was jumping up and down, and it was amazing with that one. So
I think it's not when it actually became Christmas Day when that 3rd and 30 happened because of the time zone difference.
Yeah, I think it ran.
Oh, that would have been hilarious. Merry Christmas.
Yeah. I mean, look.
That's the one I'm talking. That's the one I'm on about. Yeah.
And like, look, Kellen has moments in games where you're just like, "What are you doing, Kellen? Why are you doing?"
And there's moments of pure genius.
Yes, exactly. Which was that 3rd and 30 play.
And what singular word does that boils down to? Consistency.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, the thing is as well, I mean, we've been talking all the time. You do need to go into your bag of tricks at least once a game.
Yeah.
Credit to Philadelphia. They snaffled that one out, and but that potentially had the makings of an absolutely great play as well. If it had just gone a little bit smoother or whatever, and Dak had got the ball off, but credit where it's due. Philadelphia will have done enough studying of the tendencies and what have you, and I'm sure there are things that go on where things happen on the sidelines. There are spies who come in and what have you and watch things as well, watch what happens in practices and what have you. So they maybe do have, I'm always reminded of the time that Jimmy, just before the Super Bowl, was watching somebody doing a report in front of the Buffalo Bills, and the Buffalo Bills were practicing a shuffle pass. And, they'd never done it during the season at all. And Jimmy says, "Look, we need to scheme up against this." And sure enough, they did. And, he got snuffed out straight away. In fact, I think it was actually a turnover. I think it ended up being an interception to James Tolbert or something like that. Tony Tolbert.
Tony Tolbert, yeah.
Yeah. So it's little things like that. And they do enough of this sort of advanced scouting. So if even if it's going back to Kellen at Boise State and seeing that Kellen had done a play like that, or it's, again, when he was sitting down talking to John Gruden and when everybody was talking, he was going to be the next hotshot offensive coordinator and all this, and you saw all those things. It's maybe something that he's drawn up and he's had it, they know it's coming at some point. It's just, in that case, it wasn't executed well by us, or it was executed well by their defense. So, and it served a purpose. Maddox went out on that play, and didn't return to the game. So, you feel bad that these players, the players themselves, regardless of what team they're playing for, you feel bad that that's their season-ending injury or whatever. But it certainly helped us because that took a major weapon away.
This is the only comment I'm going to make on this. I'm going to make it short and quick. This makes a difference between us as Cowboys fans towards Eagles fans, where I don't know if you guys may have seen it. I don't want to give it too much attention, give this guy any attention at all, but he made an Instagram video about Prescott about a Christmas present and basically made a remark about his mother, which was out of order. So that's the difference between us. When a player goes out, we show respect, etc. We hope he's all right. Then you've got, this is why I dislike this football team with a passion. It's because of the fan base.
Yeah.
So sorry, I just had to get that out there.
And look, it's not. Look, we know that that's the minority of their fan base, but it's not an isolated incident. There's a long and varied catalogue of incidences. But we don't want to paint their whole fan base with that. But,
no. There is some good guys out there. We know that for sure.
Course. But they don't tend to help themselves. I'm just going to bring up Benny's comment here.
Sorry, I had to do that there, Brian. It's just something that just popped in my mind. It was just where Lauren was going there, and I just thought, I better get it out with,
Yeah, you've got to say it. But I'm just going to pull up Benny's comment here. Just he's saying from John Machota, Dak tied with Joe Burrow for the most games with a completion percentage of 25% or better, with 5. Since he's returned from injury in week 7, Dallas leads the NFL in points per game at 34.6. Philadelphia is second, and Cincinnati is third. I mean, for me, I think if you took away the interceptions, and look, we know we can't, and even at that, Dak has played since he came back at an MVP level. And if that team's fan base can chant MVP about their quarterback, I don't know why we're not chanting it, because he's played at that level for me.
Media bias, mate. It really is. It really does bow down to, don't get me wrong, Hurts is having a good season, but has he really been spectacular? Has he been clutch? No, he's just been following a playbook. Like the run play option, he's using his attributes best against them. It's not the prettiest of football. He's not merely made major, massive highlights. So, I just don't get it. I really don't.
I think you made the comment earlier, and I'll throw it over to you now in a second, Lauren. He makes plays which are highlight reel friendly.
Yeah, he does. And I mean, you've got to think as well. I mean, you've got to feel bad for Eagles quarterbacks when they're in the talk for being MVPs as well, because the last time they had a quarterback that was in the conversation for being an MVP, he then went and injured his knee, and is now actually playing for the Washington Commanders after having bounced around the league as well. So, obviously everybody likes to rag on the Cowboys. That's why, every talk show or whatever is always ripping into the Cowboys, because it's generating headlines. And, obviously Jerry likes that because it's generating headlines and what have you. But, I think Dak should be in the conversation. Okay, the stats aren't there in terms of the interceptions, but the fact that he's guided this offense, and it's taken a mark up since Dak came back, and there's a step up from Cooper Rush.
Yeah.
Yeah. Here's an interesting one. I'm just going to pull it up from DJ Dog.
I mean, again, a media. Like, I don't know
Yeah.
why we should actually pay attention to this mainstream media. Because all they do is just cause controversial topics, and it gets us
Yeah.
worried for over nothing, really. Like, if you really want to get the real, true information and proper assessment by go to DallasCowboys.com, go to bloggingtheboys.com, check out your fellow Dallas Cowboy content creators, which we'll show you later on the show. Like, we'll have more proper, accurate information and proper opinion where does it affect the Cowboys or does it not, or is it just the actual media just trying to scaremonger pretty much?
Yeah, that's true. So we've given Dak his props, and one of the other points you've kind of alluded to it already, Paul, in terms of the 3rd and 13 play. T.Y. Hilton had a huge impact in this game without playing very many snaps.
Yeah, I think people weren't really expecting much of him this game anyway, being this his first debut. And I think the Eagles just kind of like just brushed that aside a little bit and didn't realize like he's got some wheels on him still. He can move that fast. And we saw him how he just took out like that left side of the ball. Like and like under double coverage. It was fantastic. So T.Y. Hilton, welcome to Dallas. That's what I will say.
And one of the points that I liked after the game was he came out on Twitter and said, if this is how I'm being welcomed to Dallas, I'm happy to be here. He seemed to want to be in Dallas. He seems to be enjoying himself in Dallas. And that's his first game, do you know?
Absolutely. I mean, and it makes you wonder, it's like, if I was Odell Beckham right now, I'd be thinking, oh my God, why did I not sign? Why did I not why did I make those silly comments? Why did I not try and get back to game fitness to actually contribute to the team?
Yeah.
You had your chance, OBJ. Had your chance. But I'm actually happy at the fact that we've got a guy that's also Pro Bowl caliber. He's had over 1,000-yard seasons before and stuff like that. So, and he's played with some quarterbacks like Andrew Luck and Phillip Rivers. So, hell yes, I'll take him in a heartbeat. So, and he's made a major impact, and I'm excited to see what we can do in these two more games in the regular season. Give him more reps and see how much of an impact and contribution he can bring to the team.
Yeah. And Lauren, I'm just going to throw this one to you because I saw the comment coming from DJ Dog, and I just wanted to wait until we got to this. T.Y. Hilton made the play. He beat the cornerback and beat the safety, and the safety was interfering with him as he made the catch, and there was no flag thrown on the play.
Yep. And I mean, the refs again. I mean, I don't want to harp on about the fact that refs are generally biased against us, but I mean, there was plays where you've seen roughing the passer calls for a hell of a lot less than Dak went through in this game as well. So, there are calls that are typically made against us, and I think there was a couple of years ago as well. I think it was Zach Martin complained that Dallas's offensive line get called out for holding a hell of a lot more than anybody else in the league. But statistically, you can say that there's holding on just about every play in the game. So it just seems strange. But I mean that play by T.Y. Hilton to get it through, and not only that, I mean Dak to put it in a position that only T.Y. could get it as well. And to do that after having basically only played, they only practiced 4 or 5 practices together, or so. To have that sort of communication, and as DJ Dog says there, I mean, is big impact there on that first drive after the interception as well to convert 4th and 8 by getting a penalty as well. And I mean that you could. People will complain that was a ticky-tack call, but it's something that T.Y. Hilton knows how to get called against him. So that's what the veteran experience that we've perhaps been missing in in this season. That's something that T.Y. Hilton's bringing to this team just at the right time. So
Yeah. And I'm just going to pull up Ashish's comment there in terms of Will McClay knows how to pick players. And I mean, we're all on record here for how grateful we are to have Will McClay at the Dallas Cowboys. I mean, a lot of fans will get on Will's back and say, you didn't pick TJ Watt, you didn't pick this player, you didn't pick that player in the draft. But I think Will's record pretty much speaks for itself in terms of what he has brought to this.
Yeah, I totally agree. I mean, I think it's only really the tackle Charlton Pound. It's the only one we can do a question about sometimes. Yeah. But other than that, like every player essentially he has drafted has kind of contributed somewhat. Obviously, with the late round draft picks, like the chance they're not going to get into the roster. For example, John Woodrow this year, like there was a lot of promise about him. People were excited for him, but in terms of everybody else, like especially the last 2 years, the majority of those players have contributed massively.
Yeah. And I mean, you're not just talking as well the first 3 or 4 picks as well. I mean, Deron Bland, obviously we'll get onto the defense, but Deron Bland should be in the running. You know, he's leading the team as a rookie. He set the rookie record for Cowboys in terms of the number of interceptions in the rookie season. I think as a drafted player, I should say, because obviously Everson Walls leads as a rookie, but you know, seeing what he's doing, and you're talking he was a 4th or 5th rounder, you know, but where I think Will McClay and all that have taken another step this year is the people that we have brought in who are veterans who have been either released or you know, have been street free agents this year because they're perhaps at the tail end of the year, tail end of their careers. You're checking the tread on the tires, and you're actually getting something out of these guys. You know, in the past, if you know the front office is often outlined that we bring players in, and you know you're sort of going, "Oh, why have we brought him in? Because they don't do anything or whatever." But this year, everybody that we've brought in and brought up onto 53 has actually done something. You know, and I mean, even Jason Peters, you can say that, you know, he's not contributing physically on the line, but perhaps he's been a guiding light for Tyler Smith as well, while Tyron Smith was out. And, you know, to see Tyron Smith come back as well and, you know, perform as well as he has, and actually realize that his time as left tackle's probably up, and it's you know, him volunteering to put everything aside and say, like, I'm going to play right tackle for you. You know, there's something special about everything that's going on this season.
I know, and yet somehow we still don't feel so 100% satisfied as like overall, like we're not getting too over confident team, if that makes sense. But there is something special about it. It's so weird to describe this team this year. It really is.
And I mean, look, Lauren, you've done it's a beautiful segue, because it was the last point I wanted to bring up on the offensive side of the ball. Are either of you slightly concerned with the O-line play? Is it slightly unbalanced? Do we really need to consider putting Tyron back at left tackle? Or, as Lauren has said, maybe his time at left tackle is up and he can play right tackle?
I think Philadelphia, give them the credit, they do have a very good defense, and they do have a lot of big bodies there that can be disruptive. And they will test the measure of even your Pro Bowl guard. I mean, again, we were lucky. Jordan Davis went down with a concussion protocol as well early on in that game. You know, you're talking with Philadelphia, you're talking guys like Fletcher Cox, Jordan Davis, Ndamukong Suh, Milton Williams, all of these guys are big 300+ pounders that, are going to put pressure on whoever's blocking in front of them. And they were scheming it so that obviously they're taking away the running, putting you in a position where you've got to pass the ball, and that then does put you on the back foot when you're pass protecting. It's easier if you're able to wear them down by running the ball all the time, and you're constantly turning that over 3, 4, 5 yards a game, or 3, 4, 5 yards a carry. But yeah, it makes it hard if you're constantly having to go into pass protection, and they know what they can scheme up all sorts of tricks, stunts, slants, all sorts of pass rush moves on you.
Yeah.
And if your hand placement isn't right, you'll then draw the wee yellow duster coming out the referee's pocket as well. So.
Very true. So look, we're nearly an hour into the show, and I think it is time that we flipped it over and we talked.
But you cut yourself off there, Brian.
I did. But look. Obviously, we need to talk about the bad things that happened in this game, and we as a group of 7, we always try and give a balanced opinion on things. We don't try and sugarcoat and say everything is wonderful, and I think it's fair to say there are concerns with our secondary and concerns going into the playoff about our secondary.
Absolutely. I mean, Trevor Diggs can't do everything, there seems to be a little bit of a void now since the injuries to Anthony Brown, and obviously don't forget Jordan Lewis early on in the season as well. So it's definitely much more of a concern.
I mean, if nothing else, this last couple of weeks has proved that Anthony Brown is as much maligned as he is. Has done a job this year for us that he'll still get singled out by teams and what have you, but you're not seeing it as bad as it has been. Kelvin Joseph played 0 snaps this week on defense anyway, and Kelvin Joseph is a very good special teams player, but I think I was listening to a podcast today. He sat at his locker. He got dressed within 10 minutes and everything like that. And he had the face on him that suggests that he's already maybe he knows that the writing's on the wall. He's certainly looking at an uphill slope next season for training camp. To even make the roster this year or this forthcoming season.
But I mean, that in itself is a huge concern, that a guy who we took with a second round pick is potentially looking at being cut in the off season. That there are opportunities. I mean, he was taken to be a boundary corner, and he has not done it.
Yep.
We're all gone into a lull there, are we?
I think so.
So, look, I suppose, as I say, look, he hasn't been great, but I mean, a couple of guys we took in last year, and Sean Wright, Izzy Mukwamu haven't stepped up either, and I think the next 2 games we have to sort out who is our boundary corner, because Deron Bland, I think, played a lot of snaps on the boundary, and he's a slot corner. He's not a boundary corner.
Yeah. Although, I mean, I think you did see some progression with him this week that, he can be serviceable as well. And he's, again, you got to remember this is his first season in the NFL, and he's still learning the nuances of the game. But, he's standing up to these guys. And I mean, half of his interceptions this year have basically been wrestling the ball away from receivers. It's contested catches, and it's just the way that he's gone down. It's almost been like the sort of tiger roll, where you go down at the same time and you just happen to rip the ball away. Now, if you both land together and you don't rip the ball away or anything like that, then typically they give the catch to a wide receiver. So it's showing that he has that. It's that sort of scope there. Yeah, it's going to take a while before he actually sort of truly becomes develops into the cornerback that we think he could be. But we just haven't seen anybody else stepping up at the moment. And again, hopefully we need to see what these guys that are on the practice squad are doing as well. And, can they provide that veteran presence? And sort of, hopefully you'll see something. Nashon Wright, I thought, actually played quite well. He he had that tackle for loss. He had a couple of passes defended. I think he came close to knocking one of the balls out as well. So that could have been ruled a fumble, but the refs went another way on it.
And I think to be fair, you kind of mentioned the tiger rolls there, and I mean that is the amazing thing, that in the last 4 minutes where we had 2 turnovers, most of that, as you say, was a tiger roll interception and fighting for the ball. And it seems to be something that Aidan Durday has done. It is Aidan Durday who's the defensive line coach, isn't it?
Yes, correct. Yeah.
Don't
do what Mike Fisher did.
And it's something I heard on the commentary, was that Dan Quinn spent time last week talking with Stuart Lancaster, the former England rugby manager, talking about tactics like that. They mentioned about shoulder level, about how they could stop the pushing in on touchdowns, but they also seem to have talked about that fighting for the ball on the ground, rucking, I suppose, in rugby terms or whatever like that. And that's what really has been a great sight to see from the defense this year.
Mm-hmm. No, that's totally, absolutely, 100%.
It shows as well that we're basically, we're not leaving any stone unturned and helping this team get better as well. I mean, from what they were saying, it was an hour talking about how defensive line play, so comparing it to the scrimmage in rugby, and what have you, and about how it always is the lower man tends to win as well. So for Dan Quinn to be talking tactics for an hour, I'm sure it's worked the other way as well. It's it's backing up, so it'll work back into the rugby system as well. So.
But the other, I'm just going to bring this up and see what you guys thought on this from DJ Doug. Thoughts on Mackenzie Alexander playing slot and Bland on the outside?
Oh,
could work.
I think that is.
I'll be perfectly honest. I like the idea of it, but I'm no cornerback specialist, so I'll leave it to you guys in that one. But I like the idea of it, though.
I think it's something they're going to have to sort out, as they say. And look, the numbers do speak for themselves in terms of what Nashon Wright brought. He was a leading tackler on Sunday, had a tackle for loss, had 2 pass breakups. And maybe like that, it's just getting him a few more reps, getting him up to speed, because bringing in a cornerback cold to play a position, it's difficult. Like, there is a huge learning curve at cornerback in the National Football League. So, you're kind of relying on a guy to come in, as we say, top 100 pick last year in 2021. He just needs time. And hopefully across these next 2 games, you might see Nashon Wright get that time and get that development. You keep Bland in the slot, but you have Mackenzie Alexander there who knows how to play in the NFL as a backup.
Yeah, and again with Mackenzie Alexander as well, he's somebody that, if I remember rightly, he's got ties with the Cowboys organization, in that
Mhm.
I think he played for Minnesota under George Edwards as well. So George Edwards been our linebackers coach. So
Yeah.
George Edwards knows how to get something out of him as well. And then it's just a case of integrating him into the scheme of Dan Quinn's defense. And for the secondary, I mean, the big problem at the moment, I think, for our defense is we're not generating the same sort of pass rush pressure.
Yeah.
So that then makes it harder for the secondary as a consequence. And I think it's just the case. Obviously, you're 15 weeks into the season, and guys are getting beat up, especially in the front seven. No LVE, no Hankins. Um, you know, we've got rid of Basham. You maybe would have liked him to come back. Micah Parsons has been battling all sorts of things this season.
Yeah.
The number of times you've seen him sitting on the sideline, where last year he was probably 80-90% on the field. This time he is being taken out, and he's realizing he needs to calm it down a little bit, and it's where we're playing him, because he's playing as a defensive end now. He's having to go up against 300-pound linemen every snap almost. Where it's different if he's playing as a linebacker and he's able to drop back in coverage for a bit and rest himself up. So that's the side of things that we need to address, is getting the defensive pressure again. But it's good that the sacks have dropped off, but the turnovers have sort of started to come up again.
Yeah. I think you've segued beautifully into the next segment again, Lord. And Paul, I'm gonna throw this over to you. Have you concerns about the fact we've only one sack in the last 3 games, or like that? Are you going right? Sack numbers might be down, but turnover numbers are going up again.
Yeah, I have no concerns at all. He's still pretty much leading the NFL and pretty much in everything right now. Like, well, he's on amongst the overall category right up the top. He's still in the defensive MVP category contention. So the way he even I thought Parsons was being very intelligent in that game. Like, he was actually especially at the end, but even though he was tired, but he actually asked his coach to put roll the timeout, because who knows what could have happened that last play if they did like if he was that bummed out, it might have given Minshew more time to do whatever he had to do, and that who knows. But overall, Parsons, I thought he played all right. Like he was giving it, he was pressuring. He was up against Lane Johnson. He was up against the other guy on the right hand side. Yep, Samuel. Yep, and he was effective quite a lot. But it's just like how the Eagles' offense played. You weren't really going to see much sacks, really, because they're all about getting the ball out quickly. They're not really much. I don't think they really posed much of a deep threat as much, but it's mostly balls down the middle and screens and run play options. So, but for Minshew to do that, and I mean, I know I'm pure ranting on here, but overall, Parsons did a good, decent job, I thought.
Yeah,
and I don't think we should be concerned.
But I mean, look, I'm gonna give the D line a bit of credit here. Let's be honest. That team had three Pro Bowlers on their line.
Yep.
In the game.
Yep.
Like, I think it's Jason Kelsey, Landon Dickerson, and Lane Johnson are all going to the Pro Bowl this year. I mean, you're not going to meet too many teams with 3 Pro Bowlers on their line.
No. And this year we've only got 1.
Yeah.
And normally it's got 3. Like, it was always Travis, Zach, and Tyron.
Yeah. And I mean, I'm going to bring up another point here, and again, it does relate to Micah. The fumble by Miles Sanders was incorrect.
There we go.
Scraping at the ball, and that's where Micah came into his own in that last half of the 4th quarter, when the game was in the melting pot, when the game needed to be won. Micah stepped up and pushed himself and pushed himself and pushed himself. And as you said, Paul, he called the timeout. And I think he was the one that was putting the pressure on Gardner Minshew. The Gardner had to backtrack and just lob it into the end zone in the hope of someone making a play.
Yeah, I totally agree. Absolutely.
Yeah, I mean, if he'd been gassed and we carried on, and you know, we might have been talking about how it gone to overtime again, or we'd had a 1 point loss or whatever. You know, it's little things like that, and it does seem, again, it's maybe icing the Philadelphia Eagles offense a little bit, but it does seem strange that we let the play clock get down to about 2 before we actually called that timeout. I think it was basically because Parsons almost went on strike and sat down there, you know, in the middle of the field and said, "I'm not moving. You know, you've got to call a timeout." You know, and that's perhaps slightly concerning about this coaching staff, is that we weren't ready to respond to, or it took us so long to respond to that. But you know, again, you know, as we said, Sam Williams started this game on the sidelines because he, you know, obviously, unfortunately, got into that wee fender bender this week as well. But you know, so that was one weapon that we were missing as well. But you know, I think the pressure was there. We were just, you know, it wasn't consistent, or it, you know, Gardner Minshew was doing, fair credit to Gardner Minshew, he was doing enough to just get himself out of trouble, get himself, you know, he wasn't being hassled, so he was able to do enough to get the ball away. So
yeah, just to add that on top of it, Minshew was 355 yards, 8.9 average, 2 touchdowns, 2 interceptions, 84.9 QB rating. I mean, it's not the best, but still, but he still kept the Eagles in the game. Like, the whole receiving core, 355 yards with 2 players, Smith and Brown going over 100 yards, Smith with 2 touchdowns. So, I mean, even with Dallas Goedert being back, he got 67. Kenneth Gainwell, he got 41 yards. Tez Watkins, 19. Then you had Pascal and Sanders picking up the additional yards. I mean, you still need to give the Eagles credit, and this is what we keep saying. Like, we'll give credit when credit's due.
Yeah,
Eagles made it a dogfight in this game. They did.
They did, and you know, like, as I say, this is where we always will be unbiased in our reporting. Is that we will say, look, things are not 100%, because they're honestly, they're not. You know, we're not going to try and blow smoke up the team's ass. It wasn't good in patches, and it is a game that could have gone the other way. But when it was needed, the defense did step up and won us that game.
Absolutely.
And we'll give them props for that. And sorry, I think it was Ashish's comment here. Things will change once we get Jonathan Hankins back.
Yeah, that's going to be a much bigger bonus. Like, if we do end up like going against Philly again somewhere down the line, I just hope it's going to be like we have our full strength team playing it the way we should be playing it against their best, because I still think we would still win, given if we have everything all in place and it's just a matter of pressing the go button pretty much, and everything just executes as it should be. Our team, I'd say, is better than Philly.
Yeah.
Just hands down. But going back to what you were saying about the defense, like you said, it wasn't pretty, but those fundamental moments like that was game changing. It really just like showed perseverance, and our defense really stepped up when they are required to. And it's not the first time they've done this season. They've done it in multiple parts of the season. Like, but yeah, all credit to the defense.
Yeah. And just, I'm going to pull this up because DJ Dog did come back to me on this, and he said it was Fowler who was on that last play. And that's the thing. It doesn't have to be Micah on every play.
Exactly.
Dante Fowler is making a play. Nashawn Wright is making plays as he's coming in. Deron Bland is making plays. Everyone is contributing. I don't think there's anyone on the 53 at present who has not contributed at some point this season in what has happened.
Even big our new long snappers are actually getting really in amongst it as well. Did you see his celebration? I'm sorry, I know
Yes.
I'm pure jumping, but even that's a contribution on its own. The fact
Yeah.
he's like, you're showing the passion, man.
Yeah.
Yep.
I mean, like, again, look, you jumped into it in terms of the special teams. Brett F and Mar, 4 from 4, 4 from 4. Brian Anger had 1 punt in the game, and as you say, the moment of the game for me was the long snapper. Just that celebration, you know.
Yeah, he's like,
It's showing you want to be there, you know, and want to contribute.
yeah, absolutely, and he's been very accurate. Like we've not had any hiccups when it comes to the setting up of the field goals or the punts or anything like that. So
yeah, I think Overton
is it Overton into it? Is it
Matt
Overton? Yeah.
Yeah.
I think Barr's first snap against, was it in LA?
Rams. It was the Rams.
Yeah. I think bar that, everything else has been clockwork.
Yep. And I mean, the other good thing as well this weekend, okay, there was a flag on the play as well, but I mean, you saw Cavonte Turpin take off as well.
Yeah.
Cavonte Turpin had that huge long return. Unfortunately, it was full back for a holding call, but you know, it shows that he hasn't suddenly dropped off a cliff as well. So you know, and it shows why he's punched his ticket to the Pro Bowl as well. So
yeah. And just the point here, Ashish has kind of asked, and DJ Dog responded straight away. Brett Maher did get snubbed. He wasn't brought up to the Pro Bowl.
Pure scandal. Absolute scandal, man.
He's missed 4 kicks this year, is it?
Yep.
I think it's on 23 for 26.
Who's the NFC kicker?
I've no idea. Could be Greg Joseph. We'll look it up. But I mean, is there anything else on the defense that we want to talk about? Because I mean, we did give the offense an awful lot of time this evening.
I mean, I think like Anthony Barr, he deserves a little bit of recognition as well. He had a really good game overall. I mean, there was a couple of moments that did get caught out, but again, I still feel like we do need more bodies for linebacker just to be in a safe situation. With like, I think that's also a concern going forward as well, because like if we don't know whatever, luckily it was just a stinger. We just don't know what the hell's still going on with Jabril Cox and stuff like that. Like you very rarely ever see him. So so I don't know if that's just more of a concern on observation.
It's Seattle's kicker Myers.
Jason Myers.
Seattle's kicker is Jason Myers.
That's fair, I guess. He's been pretty efficient this year. But I would still would have given if Myers can't make it, then Myers should go in, I think.
Yeah. And just to bring up another point here, Ashish said Barr almost had an interception. He did.
Yep.
That's the thing is you're getting contributions from all of these guys. And I mean, Paul, you were kind of saying, and I agree with you on the lack of depth a little bit at linebacker at the minute. But I mean, even Luke Gifford came in.
Oh, yeah.
And, he was ordering guys about. Like, Luke Gifford is not a starter. He's barely a backup linebacker. But he came in and he was organizing the guys around him, telling them where they needed to be. And that, as we say, that's what you want. You want contributions from every one of the 53 on the roster.
Yeah. And I mean, again, obviously we've said that, Minshew threw for 350 yards. But I mean, as soon as the passes were completed, we were making the tackles. There wasn't any long yard after catch or anything like that. It pretty much was catch, taken down. So, as bad as it was in terms of giving up the yardage, they had to fight for all that yardage. It wasn't a case of, us giving up the easy play or anything like that. So, the only one thing that I thought was bad from Dan Quinn was that that touchdown that they scored where they went into zero blitz, and you had all your defensive backs playing back. I mean that just makes it too easy for the wide receiver that Bland, he had to, if he picked one side, it was obviously the receiver was going to go inside or whatever, and it was just a case of, if Minshew could stay off, and stay clean or whatever, and see which way the receiver reacted, that was going to be a score there. I was screaming at the screen, why the hell are you playing off? Why are you playing off? That makes it easy. You should come up and bump and run or something there. But
I'm just seeing the comment here that Jake Elliott has also been added to the Pro Bowl now.
And he's
Jake
been
Elliott
injured.
has missed multiple kicks this year.
And he's missed multiple games. Cameron Dicker was playing for the Eagles at one point. I mean, Christ, Cameron Dicker's been all over the league this year, but he was playing for the Eagles at one point as well. So I mean, Elliott being signed, that's a joke, to be honest.
Yeah, but I mean, as we say, look, the Pro Bowl is a popularity contest. Whereas, was 2014 or 2016? Sean Lee didn't get into the Pro Bowl, but was an All-Pro selection.
Yep.
So I tend to put more faith in what the All-Pro selections are. So that's just my tuppence worth. But I mean, look, I think we're nearly an hour and 25 minutes, and just to bring up the closing comment from DJ Dog, Cameron Dicker, look him. I mean, you know your audience well, DJ Dog. You know myself and Gordon are Texas Longhorns fans, and we're very conflicted as to which match we're going to be watching on Thursday night. If we're going to be watching the Alamo Bowl or if we're going to be watching the Cowboys. Might have to do a simulcast on that. But I think we'll get out of here. So I mean, look, obviously Thursday night, I think it is, Paul, unless you know differently. Mike and the guys will be doing the show as normal at 9:00.
I think so. It literally will be literally live, pretty much a proper pre-game show that is like before the game. So yeah. So
I will throw it over you, gentlemen, if one of you wants to do the shout out for Cowboys experience, and someone wants to do that content shout out.
Yeah, I'll do them both. It's all right.
Yeah,
guys. So if you're planning to go into a Cowboys game in the playoffs on next year, be sure to go with cowboysexperience.com, where you can get meet and greet, stadium tours, game tickets, and the ultimate tailgating experience, and much, much more. As you can see, there's guys like Jay Novacek, Micah Parsons, Drew Pearson, Zach Martin, Travis Frederick, and more and more guys and former cheerleaders, alumni. Like I said, Barry and Michael of Cowboys will treat you like absolute royalty. And to take full honors of this opportunity is use the discount code UK Cowboys, because guys, what is it you get? Use the code.
You get free stuff.
Yep, you get free stuff.
And you also get chocolate pudding.
Yeah, depends.
Yep.
Yeah, guys, and also be sure to go and check out our fellow content creators. Like we mentioned earlier on the show, talking about the mainstream media. They just basically just cause controversy and just try and stir the narrative. If you want to get the real proper Dallas Cowboys content, be sure you check out every single one of these guys that are listed on here on the screen. Like you've got the officialcowboys.com, Blogging the Boys, Jeff Kavanagh. They've got J-Tuck with CFO Sports, Big Game James. You've got Skywalker Steele, the guys from Canada, Cowboys Can Fan, and Fort Lombardi, and many, many more. So be sure to go and check everyone out.
Yeah, absolutely. And look, just the last comment Joe has asked. Yes, Joe, there will be a show on Thursday night. The guys will be doing a preview show, so be sure to tune in.
Usual time,
9:00 here in the UK and Ireland.
Yep, and just as we finish, you'll then be able to switch on to Dallas Cowboys' own pre-game show as well.
Exactly. Yep. It'll be one. It'll
Work
be in
right through till 4 o'clock in the morning.
Yeah, it'll be in perfect sequence. You'll have us, you'll have the official Cowboys, then it'll be the actual game, then you'll be going to bed.
Absolutely. So look, gentlemen, ahead of the New Year's, I won't see you until next Tuesday. So I'd like to wish everyone here, as we say, you guys are our MVPs, and I'd like to wish all of you a happy 2023. And here's to hopefully an extended season into February. And we'll see you next Tuesday. But don't forget to tune in to the guys on Thursday night. And I'll throw it over to Paul and Lauren to finish us out.
Have a good one, guys. See you on Thursday.
Yep. See you Thursday, guys. If we don't see you Thursday, Happy New Year when it comes. And we'll be back talking about victory next week.
Good night, one and all.